Someone just decided, not considered, not moved closer to deciding, not arrived at a tentative sense that they probably should at some point, actually, fully, finally, no longer revisiting decided, with the specific, settled quality of decision that belongs to someone who has been circling the same conclusion for long enough that the circling has finally become more uncomfortable than simply landing. The deliberation is over. The direction has been chosen, and the direction is you. What is about to reach you, in whatever form it takes, is the external expression of something that has been fully formed in this person's interior for considerably longer than the delivery of it would suggest. The message has been written in the interior for a while. What is new is the decision to send it. I want to hold that distinction carefully because I think it matters for how you receive what is coming. The feeling is not new. The willingness to express the feeling is what is new. And the specific moment that produced the decision to stop containing and start expressing is the moment this reading is going to walk you through, because understanding what finally tipped this person into motion gives you something considerably more useful than simply knowing that a message is incoming. It gives you the quality of what is behind the message, the weight of it, the duration of it, everything that has been building in this person that will be present in what they send you, carried between the words, even if not contained in them. Stay with me through this one. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the initial impressions were distinct and they tell the fuller story of what this reading is actually about. I felt the very specific quality of someone crossing a threshold. Not the threshold of deciding, which I believe had already been crossed in the quiet moments of their own interior. The threshold of actually going, of moving from having decided privately to acting on the decision externally. The specific, slightly breathless quality of someone who has stopped deliberating and has started doing, and who is experiencing the particular combination of relief and vulnerability and forward momentum that belongs to someone in the first moments of genuine action on something they have been holding for a long time. I also felt something I want to name specifically because I think it is the most important impression I received. I felt tenderness, the particular slightly tender quality of someone who is approaching something they care about very much and who is aware of caring very much and who is, for that reason, also aware of what is at stake in the approaching, the tenderness of someone who has something to lose in this reaching and who is reaching anyway because the reaching has become more necessary than the protection. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing who this person is and what they have been carrying toward you. And I want to describe it carefully because the quality of who is reaching toward you matters enormously for understanding what is actually being delivered. This card shows a young figure holding a cup extended outward on horseback, moving toward rather than away from, in the quality of someone who has something to offer and who is moving in the specific direction of the person they want to offer it to. The water element of this suit governs genuine feeling and the interior life, and this court figure at the early stage represents the full, undiluted, before much has complicated it expression of feeling in motion. This is the energy of someone who is moved by what they feel and who is allowing that feeling to produce actual movement in an actual direction. What I am reading in this card about who is coming toward you is something I want to say with precision. This is not someone reaching out because it is convenient or because there is nothing better to do or because the timing has accidentally aligned with some other event that has reminded them of you. This is someone who has been feeling something specific about you and who has arrived at the moment where that feeling has found its expression in action. The cup they are carrying is full. It has been full for long enough that carrying it is no longer satisfying. It needs to be given. I also want to speak to the youth energy of this card and what it means in this context, because I think it might be misread as indicating inexperience or immaturity. In the cup suit, the youthful court figure represents feeling in its most genuine, least defended, most directly from the interior form. This person is not bringing you a managed presentation of something. They are bringing you the feeling itself in the specific quality of something that has not been processed into a safer shape before being delivered. What is coming is direct, more direct than you might expect from someone who has been holding it this long. I want to speak to something about the specific quality of feeling that has been in motion long enough to produce this kind of directness. Feeling that has been carried for a sustained period without being expressed tends to arrive, when it finally does arrive, with a particular quality of compression to it. The compressed, concentrated form that something takes when it has been held in a small space for a long time and is finally given room to expand. What this person is going to say to you is going to feel in its quality and its directness larger than the words it uses, more present, more weight bearing. The feeling behind it has accumulated, and that accumulation is going to be audible in whatever form the expression takes. The second card arrived in the position representing the specific content of the message, what is actually being expressed in the communication that is incoming. And I want to describe this card with the full attention it deserves because it tells me something very specific about what this person is saying. This card shows a single cup held aloft from above, with water flowing from it in multiple streams and a dove descending toward it. The imagery of something being offered that is pure and complete and genuinely, wholly sincere. This is the card of emotional beginning in its most uncompromised form. The pure cup before anything has complicated it. The feeling without the qualifications and the careful hedging that tends to accumulate around feeling over time. What I am reading in this card about the content of the message is something I want to say directly. They are telling you they want you. Not in the abstract, not in a hedged or conditional way, not in the tentative form that allows for easy retreat if the expression does not land as hoped. In the specific, full, this is what I am saying form of someone who has decided to say the actual thing and is saying it. I also want to speak to the dove in this card because its presence tells me something about the quality of the intention behind the message. The dove carries peace, not the peace of resignation or of someone who has simply stopped resisting something. The peace of someone who has resolved something internal that was previously in conflict, who has arrived at a clarity that allows them to approach without the defensiveness or the protective maneuvering that tends to accompany unexpressed feeling. What is coming toward you is not defended, it is offered. There is a difference, and this card is specifically pointing toward the offered version. I want to speak to something about the water flowing from the cup in this card because the direction of the flow is important. The water moves outward and downward, away from the cup and toward the earth in this specific imagery of something that is not being contained, but that is actively, generously moving in the direction of nourishing. What this person is expressing is not a carefully rationed, measured expression designed to give just enough to produce a response without risking too much. It is genuinely offered, moving freely in the direction of you without the tight-fistedness of someone who is still trying to protect themselves while appearing too open. Does this feel like it is mapping onto something real, Virgo? The specific energy of someone who has been carrying something in your direction for a while and who has finally crossed the threshold into actual expression. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear who this is bringing up. The third card arrived in the position I read as why now. What specifically has happened or shifted in this person's interior that has produced the movement at this particular moment rather than at some earlier point or some later one? And I want to describe this carefully because the answer tells you something important. This card shows a figure who has been in solitude, turned inward, carrying their own light into the examination of their own experience, in the specific posture of someone who has been doing the private, patient work of sitting with something until the sitting produces clarity rather than simply continuing the circulation of unresolved thought. This is the hermit's work, and the hermit's work, when it is done genuinely, tends to produce the specific quality of conclusion that can only arrive when the deliberation has been honest enough and sustained enough to reach past the surface level of what a person is willing to consider. What I am reading in this card about why now is something I want to name specifically. This person has been honest with themselves about you, about what they feel, about what the feeling has been costing them to hold without expressing, about what the continued non-expression of it produces in them and in the quality of their daily experience. And the honesty has arrived at the specific conclusion that the holding is no longer worth the cost, that what they carry about you has been requiring more energy to contain than the energy of simply bringing it to you would cost, that the attempt to not feel what they feel or to feel it privately without acting on it has become, in some specific and irreversible moment, unsustainable. The why now is honesty. Finally, fully honest with themselves about what they want and what continuing to not pursue it is costing them. Inhale, Virgo. Because the fourth card is the one I want you to receive with the full quality of your presence rather than from behind any protective distance. This card shows the figure of the great announcement, the angel with the trumpet, the imagery of something that has been sent and that cannot be recalled, of communication that crosses from the interior into the shared space between two people and that reorganizes the terms of the dynamic between them in a way that cannot simply be undone. This is the card of the irreversible expression, the genuine declaration, the moment where something that has been private becomes mutual. What I am sensing this card is describing about what is specifically happening is something I want to name carefully. The message that is coming is not a test, not a tentative reaching out designed to allow easy retreat if the response is not encouraging. This person has moved past the stage where they were calibrating or testing or leaving themselves strategic exits. What is coming is a declaration in the real sense of that word. Something said with the full awareness that saying it changes the situation permanently, that the act of expression is itself a form of commitment to the truth of what is being expressed. I want to speak to something about this card's placement in the major arcane sequence because it carries something about the magnitude of what is being expressed. This card sits near the completion of the major sequence, past the difficulty and the reckoning, in the specific territory of things that have been fully processed and that are now arriving at their expression. What this person is expressing has been through its difficult period, its period of uncertainty and of deliberation, and has emerged on the other side of that as something clear and certain and ready to be said. This is not early stage feeling finding its first voice. This is late stage feeling finding its final, conclusive, no longer deferrable expression. I want to address something specific about how you are going to receive this, Virgo, because I think your particular nature creates a specific dynamic in exactly this kind of moment that is worth naming in advance. When a message arrives that carries this quality of genuine declaration, this specific combination of intensity and directness, and the specific tenderness of someone who has been carrying something for a long time and is finally letting it out, your first response is going to involve a rapid assessment of whether the feeling is genuine, of whether the timing makes sense, of what the full context is, and whether the message can be trusted given what you know about this person's history and patterns, of what the appropriate response is and what the various possible responses would produce. All of that assessment is valid and real and will serve you. What I want to gently suggest is that you let the message land before the assessment begins, just for a moment. Just enough to let the actual quality of it, the genuine, tender, full quality of someone reaching toward you with something real, actually reach you before the analytical layer arrives to organize it into something that can be carefully considered. Because sometimes the most important thing a message can do is not be assessed, but simply be received. And sometimes the most honest response to something genuine is another genuine thing, rather than a carefully analyzed determination of what the genuine thing was. Be there when it arrives, your full self, not the assessing part, the part that simply experiences receiving something that has been held in your direction for a very long time. The fifth card arrived in the position of what this message is opening into, what exists on the other side of the declaration and the receiving and the response. And I want to describe it with the full warmth it carries. This card shows two figures in genuine, complete, mutually inhabited celebration, moving together in the joy of something that has been hoped for and that has finally fully arrived, inside a wreath of completion that speaks to something having moved through its entire necessary arc and arrived at its destination. This is the card of emotional arrival in its most complete form, not an early beginning, but the specific richness of something that has reached the fullness it was always moving toward. What I am sensing this card is describing for what the message opens into is something I want to say simply and directly. This is the invitation to something that is going to be genuinely good, not provisionally good or complicatedly good or good with caveats, actually substantively in the full quality of the word good. Something between you and this person that has the specific richness of something that has been growing quietly for a long time and that is now finally in a position to become what it has been building toward. I also want to speak to the joint quality of the celebration in this card because it tells me something important about what is possible here. Both figures, not one person experiencing something while the other receives it. Two people experiencing something together. The mutual quality, the shared quality, the both of you in it quality is what this card is pointing toward as the destination of the message and the response and the everything that follows from the declaration being made and received. I want to speak to something about the wreath in this card because it carries specific imagery that matters. The wreath of completion surrounds both figures. It does not suggest that something is beginning. It suggests that something is completing. What is being invited by the message that is coming is not a beginning in the sense of the early, uncertain, hopeful phase of something. It is a completion. The specific quality of something arriving at where it was always moving toward, finally, with both people inside the moment of its arrival rather than one of them outside looking at the other inhabiting it. That is what the message is opening into. Something both of you are going to be inside of together. Before I close, I want to say something about the phrase at the center of this reading's title, because I think it deserves more than the dramatic, slightly ominous reading that could attach to it in another context. I am coming for you. In the specific register of this reading, in the specific quality of what the cards have been describing, what that phrase carries is not threat. It carries intention. The specific, directed, already in motion quality of someone who has decided where they are going and who is going there. The declaration of someone who is not waiting anymore, who is not circling anymore, who has crossed from the private certainty of their interior into the forward motion of actual approach. They are coming with something real, with something they have been carrying for long enough that carrying it has become its own kind of answer to the question of whether it is real. They are coming with the full weight of what that sustained carrying has produced. And you, Virgo, who notice everything, who have probably been picking up on the quality of this person's orientation toward you in that peripheral, not quite articulable way that your particular quality of perception produces, you are about to have the full picture. The message is on its way. Receive it the way it deserves to be received, which is to say, actually and fully and with the complete, genuine, present quality of the person you are when you are not managing anything. If this reading arrived with the specific quality of something you have been sensing rather than simply hoping for, something that already had a shape in your awareness before the cards named it, please share it with a Virgo who might be waiting for something similar and who needs to hear that what they have been sensing is real and is coming. And leave a comment. I want to hear who came to mind and whether the energy of what is described here feels already familiar to what you have been picking up on. I read every single comment and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, someone just decided, and the deciding produced motion, and the motion is toward you. Stay present. What is coming is real, and it is arriving with everything it has been building toward for a very long time.